The NSE 20 share index down very marginally yesterday, 0.18%. What stood out for you from the activity of the market?
Well, I would say the only thing that stands out is that despite us nearing 30% year to date,
Yes.
Over the past 1 month, we have only seen intraday declines less than 5 times. So I think the market is holding.
Yeah.
We've had concerns to the extent that investors may start taking profit. Again, we have the large caps trading 60–70% up year to date, but we are seeing that holding. So I think the key figure coming out from yesterday is that Safaricom post-announcement of results last week on Thursday, we have seen quite a bit of appetite, and as you mentioned, 4.8.
Yes.
And on average now we're doing 20 million shares compared to an average of 5 million shares traded daily pre the first half 2013 results.
I want to talk about Safaricom a little longer in just a moment, but yesterday we saw almost 50-50 for the foreign investors and the local investors. Yeah. Does that give us an indication of maybe why the index was down?
Not really, because if I look at total market participation by foreign investors, 50% yesterday compared to 26% on Friday. So overall, foreign investors are still net buyers of the stock exchange.
Yeah. All right, Safaricom. It's likely everybody is saying we'll be hitting the 5 shilling listing price this week. You see, are you one of those people?
Well, in terms of our valuation, our last valuation pre-announcement of results, we had a valuation of 4.7 shillings. So we are comfortable with the current level at 4.8.
But it's likely based on where it is going and those results that it might be hitting that listing price. And then a lot of the domestic investors, especially those 800,000 of them, will say, I've had it with this share, I'm going to sell out.
No, definitely it's a possibility because post-announcement results on Thursday, on Friday we saw it touching a high of 4.9, 4.95 actually. And just barely under that. So in terms of the demand that we saw post-announcement of results, yes, it could easily hit the 5 shilling mark.
All right, that should be an interesting one. Very quickly, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about City Trust, because I was just talking about unusually high trades in City Trust yesterday.
Well, again, as you mentioned, it's a unique counter because it barely trades.
Yes.
It's a closely held company. And I would imagine the reason why it traded, actually it was the second top mover yesterday.
Yes.
The reason why it hit that level was probably because of inter-account transfers between the shareholders. But again, if you look at the underlying investment of City Trust, it's in I&M. I&M recently acquired a bank in Rwanda.
In Rwanda, yes.
And you have seen a lot of momentum in terms of banks going into the regional market, and so this may just be one of the key indicators that investors are interested in City Trust because of I&M, which has a very reasonable exposure to the regional market, including Mauritius. I want to talk about foreign investors a little longer. We saw a bit more foreign activity also in EABL and Kenya Power, which is sort of shoring up these stocks. Well, EABL has been a darling for foreign investors the whole of this year. Well, we think the momentum will continue, though our last valuation for the counter was at around 180.
Yes.
So we are advising investors to actually start taking profit at the current level. On KPLC, I think we saw news yesterday about a possible review of the power tariff.
Yes.
That the Kenya Power and Lighting Company actually has contracted a Canadian firm to advise them on the sustainability of the current power tariff. So if that actually comes through, then definitely we should see some momentum based on how flexible the tariff becomes.
And speaking about Kenya Power, we're expecting that Umeme, the power utility in Uganda, will be listing in Kenya. It did its IPO in Uganda, which was very successful, and the next step is to come into this Kenyan market as well, which might give us a sort of comparison now between two power utilities and how those two trade.
Yeah, no, definitely, because if you look at the structure of the power industry in Kenya and Uganda, it's only KPLC and Umeme that are comparable.
Yes.
Because both are distribution companies. The reason why I believe appetite would still remain on KPLC despite Umeme cross-listing is because of the total allocation that was prescribed in the IM. Only 25% was going to high net worth individuals and qualified institutions. So that means only 25% would possibly be listed on the stock exchange, meaning that the level of liquidity and the level of tradability would be very different between Umeme and KPLC on the Nairobi Securities Exchange.
All right, in a budget review outlook presentation from Treasury yesterday, they're expecting that in next year the economy will grow 5.6%. 5.6%, are they being overly optimistic? Considering that the first 2 quarters of the year, the growth was very uninspiring.
Well, I've heard them talking about, again, when making the discussion yesterday, they
Yeah.
spoke about tentatively 5.2%
Yes.
for the third quarter, and even I had a mention of nearly 6%
Yes.
for the fourth quarter. So I think the momentum and the review upwards for 2013 GDP growth from 5.1 to 5.6 could actually be achievable. Because again, remember when they were actually coming up with a projection for 2013 at the beginning of 2012, there were no strong indicators in terms of economic being driven by the mining sector,
Yes.
which you're saying actually starting to push in now. Oil and gas actually starting to become ideally a possible contributor. And then also majority of the infrastructure projects that have been in the process over the last 5 years actually came into fruition in 2012. So I think that knock-on effect will be felt in 2013.